Well, a very good morning and welcome to the Global Trail World Series, visiting Austria for the first time. This is round 7 of 8 before the grand final in October. Now, we're in the Tyrol, the southwestern part of Austria. Absolutely stunning location. Usually today, the weather has taken a turn for the worse. That's affected the course they're going to be able to run, but we'll talk you through that as we go along. Patrick Winston and David Hellard with you throughout the race today, and we're still waiting for the new race distance to be established. They've taken out a chunk of the higher part of the course simply because the weather is too bad. They're expecting snow at the top of the mountains. They'll be on the glacier, so for safety's sake they have decided to change things up a little bit, and it's been a very, very recent decision. David, a wise one.
I think so. I mean, don't be fooled by the shots we've got on screen. It's 8 degrees outside at the bottom of the climb, and by the top, these runners would be exposed and freezing, but it's going to dramatically change the race that we've got on offer today.
Yeah, the Tepec Trail, the last of the races on the circuit so far. Japan, China, Europe, USA. We've been in Central America as well. Mexico visited for the first time. It has been a sensational race so far, and everything's getting pretty tight at the top. We'll talk you through the rules and qualifications for the grand final in 10 weeks' time. But for now, just soak up some of the scenery in the South Tyrol, an area that is absolutely littered with 3,000-meter peaks. Here's the overall ranking for the women's. Madalena Florea, who's having a sensational season, got a brilliant win in Isola in Italy earlier on in the season, and she tops the table just 10 points ahead of Sara Alonso, who won the first race of the season. Joyce Njiro, who's not quite found the form that she had last year. She's had a few issues. Takamura of Japan going steady as ever, and as you can see, it's fairly tight between the top 3 women. I think probably they're the only 3 in with a chance of winning the series this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to recap how it works, there's 200 points for a win. Your 3 best races pre-season go towards the final. And so we've got some runners today who've only run 1 race. Some on 2, but you need to be close to that 550, 600 points to stand a chance of winning the overall.
Yeah, Alazawi with 3 wins is already at 600, so he's sitting out today. Kipingenio, if he wins today, he will go up to a maximum of 600. We could have 3 athletes going into the final separated by just 12 points, and then essentially it comes down to those last 2 big races in Italy at the grand final. Daniel Pattis down at 470, some way off the mark at the moment, but a couple of good races here in Austria and Switzerland. 2 races in the space of a week. Things could change. The promo shots, David, always show you fantastic weather, beautiful scenery. We've got anything but today as we have a look at the highest lake in the Tyrol.
And it's really going to be a factor for some of our athletes who aren't experienced at running in conditions like this. And we can see the top 10 ladies being shown on our screen now. And it's key to see what they're actually wearing, because some of their athletes haven't actually properly come with the right kit today. But you can see there, Veronica there, in 2 layers, and our Japanese runner, Takako Takamura, absolutely layered up, which is the right thing to be doing.
Yeah, I think so. Nemi Lang, brilliant downhiller. I think she'll be a bit disappointed that the top part of the course has been taken out. Comes or trains and studies at Glasgow University. Faith Kiplagat, first at the Cross de Mont Blanc.
Yeah, the Fenris
Kisang. What do you think of her chances?
She's a great climber. She will be disappointed if there is a big change to the top, but she certainly should be up there in the first half of the race. Marlenosa, the Basque Spanish runner, very good on technical terrain. She needs to perform well today. It's the last race pre-season. And our likely race favourite, Caroline Kimatai, we've only seen her once this season in China, and she led out and was so fast over the flatter sections. We suspect her to do well today as well. And our local runner, top 3 last year.
Yeah, Moosberger, be an exciting day for her, a real sort of wake-up call as to the level of the best runners in the world. But she's, as you said, she's a local. She knows these mountains. She'll certainly have a very good idea how to pace it. Now, the profile of the course, David, prior to the decision made just 10 minutes ago, the first 5K essentially is flat by these athletes' standards. Then a massive, massive climb to be finished off with another flat 5K. So it's sort of park run, mountain park run.
And those climbs are going to be very hard when you adjust your pace. But what it does mean is that we often have seen in the races so far groups of runners all together, and it's not until the end that someone makes a break. But because there are distinct changes in the course, we expect by the time they start to climb, that field will be strung out a little bit more, and some of the runners will have to commit early, knowing that people like Naomi Lang, Finlarise Kisang, very good climbers and descenders are behind them, and so it makes it a lot harder to get the tactics right on a race like today. But look at the slight fear in their eyes, dare I say, as they look out on the conditions.
Yeah. It's not nice, and as they go up the hill, it is going to cool off very, very quickly. They'll be going up, well, what's the height of the lake? I know it's the highest lake in Tirol. It was going to be 1,700 meters of climbing. That's been cut pretty dramatically. We must be down to, what is it, 11 or 12, which is less than they do on the Ben Nevis race.
Yeah, I mean, it's really disappointing to see, and there's elements of flashbacks of Poland last year where a storm came in and actually washed out the entire race. We do know there are thunderstorms scheduled for in about an hour's time, but the good news is that while there were 2 sections to the climb and descent and it's been cut, actually the sections they've kept are the most technical sections. They're going to be the most impactful and the most exciting to watch. Depending on how they change this course, we're waiting to see updates. There is a chance that they repeat that loop twice. And if they do that, that will dramatically change the finishes places. And runners like Naomi Lang, who are very good on technical downhills, will suddenly get a little bit more of an advantage than they did in the initial route.
Yeah, and with 10K of the race on relative flat, David, who do you think this fancies? Does it suit those athletes who've got remarkable 10K times, or do you think the mountain goats still have an advantage?
I think with the course change, it now plays more into the hands of the speedsters, but we have seen it being a bit of a trap in some races in the past, where because there's nothing to slow you down in that first 5K, and there's a little bit of fear of people catching you, it's harder to get your pace right. And so we have actually seen it become a bit of a burden on those runners who start too quickly. But with people like Caroline Kimutai, we saw she was just untouchable in the first half, first third and the last third in China. And we suspect it's going to be the same today. The big difference, though, is that technicality we've mentioned. This will be the most technical race for some of our runners, but the fact it's wet means this will be by far the most technical section of our season to date.
Yeah, and Kimutai took a few falls out in China, still managed to win that one on her debut. But as you say, David, the downhill back down from the lake towards the town is where she could come unstuck. That's where the others have a chance. But we will see how it pans out. 1 or 2 athletes really struggling to stay warm in these vile conditions here in Austria. So race 7 of the Global Trail World Series for 2025. The first time the Tour has visited Austria. We're in the Tirol. It's a stunning, stunning area. Usually they've had plenty of heat waves this summer, but not today. It's cold, it's wet, it's miserable. It will suit some of the athletes, and Naomi Lang, who comes from Scotland, springs to mind immediately. The women going off some 20 minutes before the men. There's been a course change because of the weather. They were expecting thunder and snow at the top of the mountain on the glaciers, which was going to be one of the main features of this race. The organisers have had no choice, but we're a step ahead of Tatra last year in Poland, where the race had to be cancelled at the last moment. So fingers crossed that everything works nicely from here. Patrick Winston, David Hellard with you throughout the race, and the women have just seconds now before the start of race 7, picking up maximum points. Absolutely vital if you want to be in a competitive position come the grand final in October. Nervous moments, David, before the start?
Absolutely, and it's exciting to see some of the American runners in there who I hadn't clocked on our list. Sarah Carter, a very good runner, Rachel Tomic, but we can see Marlene Ossa here in white in 1:03, the Spanish runner. This is the last race she's doing before our finals, so she needs to score well today to ensure that she can maintain like kind of a top 3, top 5 place this season. She will be delighted that it's wet. She's from the Basque Country, where this is the conditions about a third of the time throughout the year.
Caroline Kimatai is one of the, or is the favourite. Remember, she won in China, part of the Milimani team. And the Kenyans have taken trail running to their hearts. The numbers are growing, and the quality is going up and up and up. And it's been a fantastic battle, really. Up to date, David, it's been a battle between the Europeans and the Kenyans, but the Americans certainly showed what they could do out in the States. A race in Mexico, we had the Broken Arrow trail race as well on the circuit.
We saw Lauren Gregory win, I think the first American female to win in some time since Sophia Lockley. In fact, we're just about to start now, so strap in, people. This is going to be an incredible race.
And they are underway. It will be a fairly fast and furious pace for the early stages. Remember, it's a flat 5 followed by the mountain, some really technical uphills, some frightening downhills, back down to the village, and then another 5K to finish off. And actually, it's exactly the same loop at the end as it is at the beginning, but they go the other way round. That's an original move by the course setters here in Austria, and things will string out as everyone gets warmed up. I think with the weather and the cold, everyone probably starting just a fraction slower than normal.
There'll be huge relief to actually be running. They're finally getting blood going for the system. This is Rachel Thomas at the front there. She's finished top 10 in several Golden Trail races. I'd be surprised if she maintains this pace, but clearly she's very comfortable on the road. And we can see behind her in the black tops there, I believe that's Caroline Kimatai, is already up there at the front, a very fast runner. And alongside her, I suspect, is her teammate Faith, I need to double check Faith's surname. They train together, they run together. On the right in yellow, we have a team run together. And you can see behind there in the white, with the hat, is Naomi Lang, and to the right is Marlene Ossa.
So the first of the sharp corners, they're off the tarmac for the first time. Some of them will enjoy that. And I must say, I thought the pace at the front would just be a little bit more punishing, but the conditions, I think, probably dictating that very difficult for the athletes. They all went to bed last night psyching themselves up for the top of the peak and a 1,700-meter climb. They literally had 5-6 minutes prior to the start to adjust their mindset to the new course. How will most of them cope with that?
It will very much split based on whether they were excited about that climb or not. For some people, it's going to fill them with so much joy and excitement, and others, it just casts doubt in your mind. The hard thing is to adjust your pace, as you say, because knowing that it's a shorter course means that they're going to have to go out at a pace that they weren't expecting, and so they would have done their warm-ups, they would have done some strides, but it can be hard to get right. The fact they are grouped together, as you say, to me suggests that there is a little bit of caution from our front runners about that up and down still. But we're going to hear from Marlen Osse, one of the runners here today, about her training so far.
Last chance for Osse to qualify for the series final. Known for her steady approach to racing. And she
Austria is my last race of this series, is my last chance, and it's really important for me. Yeah, it generates me kind of a lot of frustration not to perform as good as I know I can. And especially the first two races of the season were a pretty big low back for me.
Vamos.
I definitely think I have a lot to show yet. My name is Marlen. I'm from the Basque Country and I run for Salomon. On the one hand, Austria is important for me because it's the third race I need to qualify for the final. I'm usually really conservative in races and usually works for me, so I'm gonna follow my plan, and I think I can get a really good result if I believe in myself. So I think I can be fighting with the best ones in front.
Well, nice to hear from Marlen. Conservative, she might have to change her plan. You can't, you know, with a shortened race, you cannot let these two get too far ahead. And the Kenyan contingent already establishing themselves at the front of the field.
Yeah, and this is Marlen Osse in white on the left here. She does tend to start very conservatively. Rosalia Filou in the yellow and Nurmi Lang in the white and the red bag on the right here as well. We expect her to feature later in the race, but they will be expecting there to be some gaps forming, and they'll be quite comfortable with that. The fact it's not too big a gap so far suggests there's a little bit of trepidation about this course still, because there's quite an aggressive climb to come.
Healthy looking group at the moment. So far this year, David, generally in both the men and the women's tours, we've had 3 or 4 athletes break away and stay together for the vast majority of the races. We've had some incredibly tight finishes, particularly in the men's, and Elazawi has had to produce his demon sprint time and time again to establish himself at the top of the rankings. Eight races prior to the finals, David, and only 3 of them counting to points. Is that something that needs to be looked at in the future, or do you think it's quite exciting that we generally go down to the final with 3 or 4 athletes, whichever one of them can win the final is going to win the series at the end of the day?
It does seem to be that way, that the final counts for so many points, double the points when you include the prologue. And so it means that the season isn't over by halfway stage. One of the challenges is with 8 races around the world, it's partly to do with ensuring that athletes have the ability to race 2 races at home and then do 1 trip and have enough points to qualify. And if we look at this front three, for example, at the front at the moment is Caroline Kimmetai. She has only raced once so far in China because she's not had the ability to get visas easily to other countries. And so part of the reason why we've had 3 races rather than 4 or 5 count towards the final is partly to ensure that if people have visa issues, they can still get enough points. It's partly to ensure we're not overloading these athletes because it's extremely physically demanding to race, but also we're thinking about things like our carbon footprints and ensuring that runners don't have to travel too much to be able to get the points they need.
Yeah, so generally will have had 4 lots of 2 races with a week in between. The last race in Switzerland, the Sierra Zinal, is next Saturday, so they've got 7 full days to recover from their efforts here in Austria. Is that ideal? If you're going to do both, do you hold back on the first race just to make sure you've got something left?
You'd think that, and some runners may, but actually what we're finding is that partly due to racing instinct, but actually these runners tend to know which of those races suit them. And so we're seeing, for example, someone like Joylene Cipangino is missing this race because she's building towards Sierra Zinal, whereas some runners will do them both and go flat out. The reason why Marlon Ossa, for example, isn't doing Sierra Zinal is because she knows that she's not got the raw pace that that race requires. It's a lot more climbing, it's a lot more flowing, whereas a race like today, especially in the way it is really technical, and that favours runners who are from very rocky home territory.
So the women 15 minutes into their race. Let's have a look at some of the main players in the men's. Bogdan Damian is there, 284. Thomas Roach from Great Britain. It'd be interesting to see what he can do today. He's certainly got the experience. Gal Baudin of France, 8th in the Great Wall, 207. Tuya looking suitably nervous prior to the start. There's Roberto De Lorenzi for Switzerland, very steady performer. Has he got what it takes to win this one? We'll find out soon enough. Michael Scioli won a race in Briançon recently, which an indicator that he is on form. Cesare Maestri, 206 for Italy, 31 years old. Timothy Quebec, a great character. Be nice to see him have a good race. 4th in China, 4th in the grand final last year. Christian Allen out of USA, and he certainly livened things up at the Broken Arrow event. We'll see what he can do today. And the race favourite, Patrick Cipangino, who will, I guess, David, take advantage of the fact that Elisine Alazoui is not here for Morocco, the tour leader. So if Cipangino wins, he moves on to 600 points, and those two will move to the final on level pegging.
Super excited to see it, and actually this is almost what we want to see in a World Series, because there are different styles of running and the course determines the winner as much as the runner themselves. You almost want to go into the final where the person who's best on climbs is in with a shot of winning against the person who's best on descents, against the person who's best on distance. There's so many factors in trail racing that having that breadth of races means that you can have different outcomes depending on the course and conditions as well.
Yeah, I guess the background that makes a difference. Most of the Kenyans have come from road running to trail running, and as a result, you look at their PBs for 10K, they are super quick, but that's when they were specialist road runners. Things change when you spend 60% of your time in the mountains, and those fast twitch fibers perhaps don't work quite so effectively, but the Kenyans are super quick on the flat sections, so we'll expect to see them up the front. Who else do you think is going to be in contention, start at the bottom of the climb after 5K?
We saw it in America. You know, Christian Allen is a very fast runner as well. He's got a track background, and he switched to trail not too many years ago, and so I suspect he'll be within touching distance of the front, whether or not he commits too much in the first 5K, because he's got a 28:26 10K time, 13:34 5K, but he'll be happy keeping them within eyesight. Behind him, I think Patrick might have his teammates with him. We're going to have Timothy Kibet up there as well. But we tend to see the European runners start a little bit more conservatively. And so people like Bogdan Damian and Roberto will be coming through the second half, but we're just about to start now.
The countdown has started. Last couple of seconds before the start of round 7, and they are underway. The Pitz Alpine trail race, and already the American Christian Allen shouldering his way to the front. He doesn't want to miss any trick at the front of this field, and this looks just a little bit more aggressive than we saw from the start of the women's race some 20 minutes ago. And the difference between the start of the women's and the men's has been extended, and the reason for that is to make sure that the women's race get just as much coverage, and they will until they get overtaken. But with the shortened course, I'm not sure the men are going to catch 20 minutes on the women.
Yeah, they tend to finish around 25 minutes. Actually, sometimes 15 minutes, depending on the course. But this shortened course now, which we hope is the new course, as it has been changed, will mean there's not enough time for the men to catch them up. But as we said before, it starts with a very fast 5K around the flat. It then heads up a steep climb before a chance to spread the legs again around the lake, and then they descend. Previously they were heading up to the top of the mountain, but we can see that has now been cut, and we're waiting for confirmation on whether there's going to be an additional extension. But currently they'll come down the hill, very technical terrain, before they do another 5K loop, which will then separate anyone who's still left together before they come into our finish.
Yeah, a lot of people's legs are going to be shot by the time they come off that descent. What is it, 650 meters in no time at all. The women are through the 2-kilometer stage, not particularly quick, just under 9 minutes for the fastest.
I think as soon as the
Well, it looks very inviting, but at this sort of altitude, the water is never warm.
It looks relatively peaceful, really, doesn't it, compared to how it seemed if you're running in this. I don't know if these are live shots or if these have been pre-recorded somewhat.
I think the visibility at the lake is about 5 meters at the moment, so I don't think we're going to see too much on the live, but this is a very popular tourist spot high up above the village of Mandarfen, where everything is taking place. It's a very popular ski area. Absolutely astonished to see that the Tirol, this area, has 574 peaks over 3,000 meters. Absolutely astonishing choice of mountains to run and ski. It is consequently a sort of adventure capital of this part of the world.
that it is. And if you're expecting to see a little bit more trail underfoot, this first 5K loop, as you can see, is fairly smooth. This allows them to stretch out, and it won't be until they start the climb that they'll get on narrower, more technical terrain. And part of the reason they've put in the loop to begin with is so they can come back through where all the crowds are, but also to separate them out a little bit, which means it is easier for people to overtake. We can get our camera runners in front of the course, but currently we'll have, you see, a man on a bike cycling to film and try and keep up with them.
Yeah, just trying to calculate, David, just looking at the course profile before the changes, 23.5K with 1,700 meters of climbing. Well, the distance must have come down to something like 16 and a half, and cut the climbing to roughly 1,300. And we talked about Ben Nevis earlier on. That's almost exactly the same as the Ben Nevis race, where the record, I think, is something like 1:25 from ages ago, back in 1984. So we could be looking at a time around an hour and a half for the winning time, as opposed to last year's winning time by Manuel Innerhofer of 2:19.56, I think it was. So he was just under that 2:20 mark.
We were just with Marlin Osser there, who was, I suspect, leading the charge of the chasing group, with Naomi Lang behind them. Just waiting for confirmation of who this runner is, because it's not someone I'd expect to see at the front. The fact that they're leading, there's a chance it could be one of the... there are a couple of local twins who are marathon runners, extremely fast. I suspect it may be one of them who's gone out hard. But this is saying this is the lead of the women's. We're waiting for confirmation for that, because I'd be very surprised.
Welcome back. The women's race well underway, and the men just under 5 minutes into their race, still on that first lap of 5 kilometers. Latest we haven't had an update since the 2K marker, where Kimitai, Kisang and Kiplagat were looking good. Nemi Lang only 15 seconds or so off the lead. Nemi Lang in this picture. No sign of the Kenyans up front. I hope we haven't had a navigation error already.
And looking at the GPS trackers, it does look like Marlin and Naomi may be at the front already. There's a chance they've taken a wrong route, but one of the potential factors that could come to play is shoe selection. And if you've come here thinking it's going to be a dry race and you suddenly hit these very slippy trails, it can slow you right down. Now, of these two, Marlin and Naomi, we've never really seen them do a proper head-to-head on a downhill, but last season, Naomi Lang came into our finals and blew away everyone on the downhill. That was in wet conditions. They're both, and there's confirmation that they are behind the lead group at 2K, was that?
Yeah, that was 2K. Kyla Christopher Moody of USA was in 4th place, and she was around 16 seconds down on the leaders.
And that looked like that was Christian Allen at the front there. Didn't recognize him from behind with the moustache, the dead giveaway. But Thomas Roach in the blue here, it looks as if the pace of our front runners is actually fairly mature, shall we say. I thought we'd be seeing someone else leading by now. The fact that Christian Allen is out the front, we've mentioned how fast a good 10K and 5K runner he is. It looks like our men's pack haven't gone out quite as quickly as I was expecting.
Yeah, a number of viewers including myself, wondering what the wand across the track is. I don't believe they're counting the people up and down. Is that a cattle deterrent or what?
Well, I think it would only deter cattle if it was electrified, so we haven't seen anyone responding too aggressively to it. But maybe it's
on a postcard.
Now, we saw already this season when we were in Italy, Naomi Lang was leading out through the town at the start of the race. She does do a lot of racing in shorter distances. She's British fell running champion, so she'll feel very comfortable right now. I still want to get absolute confirmation that this is our front, because I'd still be very surprised if they're leading.
Well, I've now got them at 5k. Lang and Ossa are 1 and 2. 21.46 going through that 5k marker, so the pace is good. I cannot believe the Kenyans have let their 20-second lead slip. I think it's much more likely that they've taken a wrong turning at some stage on this loop. And I wonder whether it's to do with the fact that the same loop is going to be run but in the reverse direction later on in this race, and whether they've got mixed up on some occasion. It's a mystery.
And we can see some of the markings on the floor there, those red arrows. There normally is a cyclist in front of you, as there is now, but at the beginning it's often harder for our camera runners, our cycle runners to get space, and so maybe they have taken a wrong turn, because while we have seen a little bit of trail, it's not been significantly hard enough that it would slow them down. So maybe that is what's happened, but right now Naomi Lang is looking great. She was someone who in Poland last year went off on the shoulder of Madalina Floria, so she's not afraid to start quickly. And on the climbs, I'm not sure who's faster of her and Marlin. But Marlin is someone who's really well known for starting at a conservative pace, which makes this race even more puzzling. Maybe they know this shortened distance, they need to go out faster.
Well, I don't think fans of Naomi Lang need to be too concerned. She has fantastic pedigree, really only switched from the track to the hills recently, but she's won the Scarfell Sky Race. Anyone who knows the Lake District will know how tough that is. She won the Ring of Steel race, which is based in Kinlochleven in just south of Fort William. That is a brute of a race, so she's got to have a certain amount of good strength on the uphills. And what was she, 5th in the European Mountain Running Championships? So, you know, she's a class act, and certainly she's one of the athletes who won't be intimidated by the presence of the Kenyans.
Certainly not, especially in the wet. This has almost been the setup for a breakout year. She came on the Golden Trail National Circuit last year, and in the finals, that's where we really saw the talent she had on those downhills, and she came top 5 in the final itself. So she's then changed her sponsorship. She's a medic at Glasgow University, so she's not able to be a full-time athlete like someone like Caroline Kimitai or Marlon Ossa is. But this year she has changed with her team from being a national athlete to an international athlete with Salomon, and so I think this is the year she's actually testing whether she could step up into being a full-time athlete potentially, and you can see already that she's backing herself more in these races.
Yeah, just having a look at the Kenyans' times through 5k, David. They are roughly 45 seconds down on the 2 race leaders, which seems extraordinary. We've got Adrien Benjaminson from Norway sitting in 3rd place, going through 5k. I don't know whether she's still in that position, but she is some 40 seconds behind, and we haven't had a single shot so far where we can see anyone further back than Marlon Ossa.
I'm not surprised they're not catching up, because Naomi Lang is flying. Look at the distance she's put in, or even in those last 600-700 meters over Marlin. She's really pushing hard now, and 45 seconds is a considerable gap given it's a shorter race and there is some downhill. If she can get to the base of that big climb with a good lead, she's going to be very hard to catch.
Well, this is it, isn't it? The start of the climb. It's a series of zigzags up to the lake, and that's going to take some time, but it's very difficult to make that transition from the flat to the hills, and we're hopefully going to get an update on the positions of the Kenyan contingent of this race here in Austria. Not a lot of opportunity for overtaking on this single track. Pace has shortened. The breathing rate has quickened. And just trying to psych herself up, find that pace, find the rhythm. Well, here are the Kenyans. We haven't seen them for a while.
Yeah, this looks like Caroline Kimatai and Faith Kiplagat. They train together, and as you can see, they rightly have wearing full coverings to try and keep themselves warm. They'll need to actually lose that slightly earlier than they think. It can be incredibly hot once you get wet underneath there, and you almost turn into a bit of a sauna if you have a jacket that is too good at holding out the rain. And so it wouldn't surprise me if they unzip that quite soon. But the fact Nurmi's gone out knowing that she doesn't need an extra layer, because she knew, I think, she was going to work this hard from the start. And so I'm sure she's not feeling cold at all right now on this climb.
Yeah, and the other factor is, they've got quite a large proportion of this climb is in the forested area. There's no wind whatsoever to cool you off, and you've just got to be careful about your hydration levels. That's where you're an expert, David, amongst other things. In terms of fluid, what will they be looking to do?
Depending on if they're relying on gels or their liquid to be their nutrition, they're probably going to be drinking around 500 milliliters between each aid station they can pick up on. So they'll be looking to have between 500 and a litre per hour. It would be more if it was a longer race, but actually you can get away with it in these shorter races now. We didn't talk about how the race shortening might actually change their nutrition, because they would have sent out their gels and their bottles before the course was changed. And so they're actually going to have their nutrition calculated for a different approach to racing. They will be burning a higher rate of glycogen in this faster pace, and that means they need to be taking on nutrition earlier. We did see on the flat, Nurmi was already taking on gels, but whether everyone else has adapted to that, we won't know until a bit later. But look how steep that is. They're having to walk some of those turns.
I think we'll see a fair amount of power walking going on. One of the race officials giving the Kenyans a little tip. From my understanding, the margin between first and second was down to 31 seconds, having been close to what? To 40 seconds. 41, I think, was the greatest it's been. So the Kenyans closing the gap.
Yeah, you suspect if they have gone the wrong way, often you get that anger, that adrenaline shot, and you start pushing harder than maybe you would do if you were pacing for the end of the race.
Kimatai in 16th place in the rankings at the moment with 200 points. She could really do with 2 wins prior to the finals to put her ahead. That would put her ahead of Madeleine Fleury, who leads for Romania at the moment on 5.76. Fleury with a win and 2 seconds and 2/3, incidentally. Nemi Lang, though, leading this race, and it was a very, very quick 5K to open up with, and for the first time reduced to a walk. Any sign of the athletes behind? It looks as though Austria is not that far back.
Yeah, the time differences mean that suddenly, because you're climbing, you actually look a lot closer to the runner behind than maybe the distance suggested on the flat. But the fact they're switching to walking, you know, this is a wise move. It's not a sign of weakness. To give you a sense of quite how steep, and we'll come back to the steepness, you can see the men now all grouped together still. I believe that's Cesare Maestri at the back. But you can see that Christian Allen's early pace, in fact, I don't believe this is the front of our race. I can't see Christian, I can't see Patrick. I think the cyclist is boxed in somewhat.
Yeah, the men have gone through 5K, David. Taylor Stack of USA is up there with Dan Kurtz, also from America. Scioli and Kibet of Kenya in 3 and 4. Dominic Rowley is down as 5th place at the moment. 18:43 their time going through that 5K marker. Thomas Roach of Great Britain, 18:55 in 7th place. And Kiprotich of Kenya down in 8th place. Well,
real surprise here, to be honest, that we haven't Patrick not even in the top 10 currently. And we can see Taylor Stack here, who hasn't been on my radar before for the Golden Trail, leading out incredibly quickly. We're just going to do a little bit of research on quite how fast he is, because his pace at the moment would suggest he's come from a road running background. And in fact, we've just done a little bit of research on our current race leader. He's got some good pedigree in trail racing. He came 6th in Broken Arrow, 23K at the half marathon this year. But not quite good enough to suggest he should be leading at this stage. So maybe he's made a bit of an early error.
Being on site like 1 week before the race is really important, especially if the race is like far away from home. Hi, I'm Roberto De Lorenzi, Swiss runner, 28 years old, and running for Brooks Trail Runners. I think it's a good advantage to come a few days before the race. Every athlete has like his own strategy to do the race, but if you have in your mind every single part of the race, for sure easier to manage the race. Yeah, for me the main things that I'm looking at when I'm trying the course is for sure like the technicity of the terrain, if it's runnable, if it's technical. Also a lot like how long are the climbs, how long are the descents. I think this is the most important thing, because you can see at the profile, you can see, okay, it's like 2 kilometers and 300 elevation, but if you are really going to try it, maybe you see that when you are running there is also like a downhill part. So when you are doing a good effort, it's for me it's really important to know what is coming, so I can manage my energy better. If you not check the course, I think it could go really wrong, and with such a high level of athletes, you cannot manage to do a bad race, so it's really important to be here before.
They've regrouped now. I believe that's Michael Scioli who's now leading the field in the yellow of Team Run Together. And they're now starting the climb. We've already seen the ladies come through this section. As you can see, it's very hard to overtake. So a nice little technical move there to just get ahead of the pack. You see, increased his pace slightly. Maybe he's just thought, I want to make sure that I can see where I'm running and just stop anyone being able to overtake me on this climb. Now, Michael did come to the Italian race of Golfo dell'Austria. He came 5th there, and he was in our front pack for the majority of the race. But I don't remember him ever leading. I think he was always tucked behind Elisine or Philemon or Patrick Capigino. So this is a new experience for him to be leading a race of such scale. And we saw on the left, Naomi Lang still looking very comfortable on the climbs. Now, to give you a sense of quite how tough this climb is, because it can be hard to get a sense of it, given the camera angles, Sierra Zanal, which we're racing next weekend, is famous for its incredibly long, steep first climb. That covers 1,200 meters in 6.5K. This race has had 1,300 meters in just 4 kilometers. So it's incredibly steep. And if you're used to races like the Tour de France, where they're doing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% climbs, the average of this climb is around 35 to 38% elevation. You know, this is brutally hard to be running up when you're in a race. And imagine trying to fly down this as well and trying to, on the switchback, to maintain control on those corners. It's going to be incredibly hard to race and really maintain your footing when it's so slippery. Now we're here with Naomi Lang, front of the women's race, 7K in, and just behind her you can see Marlon Ossa, this Basque Spanish runner. They're really making light work of these climbs, and you can see where they started out already. That is the elevation they've managed to burn through already. Now this race is around 16K now. They've cut out the top because of storms. We expect the weather is going to get slightly worse in the next 20 minutes or so. As you can see, this is being filmed by a camera runner. We have a team of elite orienteers, trail racers who are there tasked with just keeping up with the front of the race for as long as they can. They take it in turns to switch because the skill of our women is tremendous. But look at how steep that climb is there. They're around 1/3 of the way up of this first climb. 600 meters in climb, approximately.
Well, what an opening. I wonder whether Naomi Lang was thinking this was going to be the way the race panned out. How would she have responded to the change of the course, David? You know, you've said already she's one of the best downhillers in the world. But the hardest downhill, the most technical downhill, is the section that's remained, so that must suit her.
And look at these rocks here. That's where you can see how technical it's going to be. Now, when we say about technicality, what we actually mean is if you're running quickly over a surface, how easy is it to maintain your speed, and how hard is it to keep your footing without falling or slowing down? So look at how narrow some of these sections are, and the fact it keeps on changing direction makes it even more technical, because a straight route over rocks gives you the opportunity to be able to control your pace and actually see what's coming ahead. But with it changing direction so frequently, it's very hard to keep on starting, slowing down, accelerating, braking, and it's doubly hard on your legs because all of the braking and deceleration takes a toll on its muscles and starts to really pound in. The fact that she's only got one downhill at the end, it will give her, in some ways, more clarity on how hard to push, because she can give everything knowing she's then just got the flatter 5 section to go.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw the sort of dust trails in China and a lot of falls there because it was essentially slippery, but you never thought that a fall was going to do much damage. Whereas in this sort of terrain, a fall at full speed can prove really, really damaging. And when your legs are shot from the uphill to then race down is so, so difficult.
The fact they've now only got one downhill will bring them some comfort. And one of the challenges in the Golden Trail we've seen is repeated up and downs just takes its toll. Now, this is Roberto De Lorenzi. He's an incredibly experienced trail runner with Team Brooks. 6th last year overall, but actually he's had some podiums through the years, and he is a runner who is very, very experienced over more technical terrain. He lives in the Italian Alps of Switzerland, and so this will feel like home to him. Maybe not the wet, but certainly the feel and the elevation as well.
Yeah, and you know, he's had a couple of top 10s this year. What was he, 8th in Isola? He was 4th in the Tepic Trail, the last of the Global Trail World Series races. But on both occasions, he was quite a long way behind, 4.5 minutes behind in Isola. He was 14 minutes down on the winners on the Tepic Trail. So good to see him up here with the leading 3. Incidentally, Lang still leading the women's. Here she is. She had a lead of 12 seconds over Ossie going through 7.1k, and the Kenyans had cut her lead from 41 seconds down to 21 seconds. So Kimutai, Kiplagat are definitely closing.
And did we see, look, that's Caroline Kimutai, surely, the jacket over the top. I believe that is Caroline Kimutai now closing in on the lead. We do know she's a very good climber. The fact she's by herself as well, she is making moves. We thought her and Faith would be locked together for the first half, but she's clearly going for the win here on this climb.
I'm not so sure the other black jacket isn't just a little bit behind, but Kimutai closing so rapidly.
I started my season in Noli and I get a 4th position.
You can see how much this means to her, 4th place on the Golden Trail.
Yeah, missing out on the podium this time round, but an encouraging performance nonetheless.
And then I run Hegama and I get a 4th position again.
Rose and Laura, 2 races in 2 weeks, still moving well. A really good performance from her.
Wow, that was a close race for that top 4.
My next race is in Austria, in Pitz Alpine. I would like to have a podium. It's so difficult, but I have a lot of motivation.
Hitting the podium certainly is hard, and it's equally tough in the women's event as it is in the men's. Just trying to update on the men's standings. I think the last split we got was at 5k. We'll get the 7.1 fairly shortly and then get some idea of how much of a gap there is between the leading 4 and the rest of the field. They all went through 5k within, what, 15-20 seconds of each other. Things have definitely changed on the climb.
Yeah, I mean, it's really going to affect their running style now. And if we look at our men's group here, that's Samuel Kiprotich at the back, another Milimani runner. Within that front group, a new runner to Golden Trail this year as well. And this is one of the challenges of single track. It does group people together. It's extremely hard to overtake. And you're stuck in the positions that you started. That looks like Thomas Roach, the Austrian-based British runner there, and Christian Allen going through. The fact that if we look at the experience of some of the runners who aren't near the front, you've got Christian Allen, you've got Patrick Epigino, the fact they're so far back off the lead does to me suggest that maybe the front of our men's group have gone out a little bit too fast, because you wouldn't expect it to see them so far back. But then Roberto De Lorenzi's up in the front group as well, who, as we know, is a very good pacer. So it's very hard to get a sense of what's actually happening in this men's race and who's feeling good today.
Yeah, I was wondering, David, whether they're considering the last 5 kilometers where lots and lots of time can be won and lost. If your legs are feeling good, you can certainly make up 30, 45 seconds on that section alone. And are the favourites just feeling that it's really important to save something for that section? Well, this is where they should have been. That was where they should have been going, David. That part of the course has been taken out.
And we saw a nice little overtake there. And that is one of the factors of being an experienced trail runner. On the downhills, it's not just about how quickly you move through, but actually how fluid you are in saving your legs. And you can see some runners who are incredibly heavily footed, and they maintain their pace, but it means they then can't run when they hit those flats. So it's not just about being fast, but being able to flow through it afterwards.
Yeah, so difficult to train for these sort of brutal hills and maintain some flat speed as well. That's the icy off-flow from the lake up here in the Tyrolean Alps.
And that's what we mean by technical there. You can see how much they're having to grasp and climb over. We've just had confirmation now that Timothy Cobbett has started to take the lead slightly over Taylor Stack. Michael Cielo just off his shoulder, with Samuel Kipicic and Dan Curtis close behind. Now, we mentioned Taylor Stack, a runner we hadn't seen before on the circuit, really, other than Broken Arrow. He's got a track background as well, and we're seeing this more and more from American athletes. Work of people like the trail team, who've been there to try and transition college runners into trail, and clearly it's starting to work. Lauren Gregory, one of the graduates who's now won a Golden Trail race. But for reference, Taylor Stack, his 1,500 meters time, 3:48, 13:48, 5,000 meters. So we've got some very fast people throughout this field. And previously, in years gone by, we'd expect to see African runners who are coming in from road, but actually we're now seeing that happening across the board, but particularly in America, people bringing that speed and learning to adapt to trail.
Yeah, the USA stacked the top 10 positions out in Broken Arrow. You know, it begs a question: if we had a continental trail race, Africa, Europe, USA, who would come out on top?
It's a very good question, and one which I feel I'd be come under heavy scrutiny, whichever continent I answer. But a good way to think about it is, it's typically or traditionally the European races have been the most technical, and that's partly because of the weather. It's partly because of the courses themselves are. You see a very different type of trail to America, and places like Kenya, where trail hasn't really been much of its tradition, so there tend to be more wide open roads. But because America's so much higher than Europe, when you go to races like Pikes Peak, Broken Arrow, they're at high altitude, and so quite often the trail has to be rebuilt each year, and so it's a lot more manicured than you get in Europe. So you see how rough this is here. It means that they're best at technical terrain, but when it comes to altitude, the Americans, the Africans are often far better suited. But for raw pace, you've always got to look to Kenya, and now Morocco as well, it seems.
Well, things are tightening up at the front of the field. Nami Lang has company for the first time over the last, 25 minutes. She's been out front, but the Kenyans have closed the gap. In the men's, the pace is still pretty brutal. Last we saw, Timothy Kibet had the lead going through 7.1. They're well past that now. Taylor Stack in 2 for USA. Seoli of Kenya, Kiptich of Kenya in 3 and 4, and Dan Kurtz of USA in 5. Thomas Roach impressed with his performance so far for Great Britain, sitting in 7th place, and he was He was just under the minute behind, going through 7.1.
And it's a great position for him because he is more of a climber, but he's also someone who tends to start a bit slower typically. He is based in Austria, so he may well know this course through and through. And he's one of those runners that you sometimes get that, because of work commitments and family life, deliver on their home turf, but just don't have the opportunity to travel away that much. And so we've seen, when he came to the finals 2 years ago, in Zagama, he's had some tremendous performances. He tends to love this type of terrain. But we're back with Nurmi Lang now. She's moved into 2nd place. Caroline Kimitai has now taken the lead. We're just about to get to the end of the climb, and this is when they meet the lake, and there is a loop around the lake that will give her a chance to create a bit more of a lead before we hit that technical deep descent.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating race, and I think the change in course probably suits Lang better than it suits Kimitai. Malinosa for Spain, setting a good pace. She's only 22, so she's still a youngster compared to many of the others out here. Comes from Anati in the north of Spain. Good ski mountaineer as well. Didn't do any running when she was a kid. Was a really good footballer, good at swimming like most kids. And then when COVID came along, switched to trail running and hasn't looked back since.
Now, if you don't know the names of our front three quite as well as some of the runners we've had on Golden Trail to date, it's partly because of their race selection. None of our front three have 3 races to qualify yet, and you can take your best 3 scores of the season into the final. Caroline has only 1 race under her belt. Nurmi Lang has started 2 races, but was ill in Il Golfo dell'Isola. And Malinosa also only has 2 good race results. So all 3 of these individuals are having to perform incredibly well today. And I suspect Nurmi and Caroline will both race Sierra Zanau, knowing they need the points. And this is where peaking at the right point of the season is important, because we can already see Nurmi catching up on the downhill. Sierra Zanau is an uphill course. There's very little technical downhill, and actually far less downhill than there is climbing. And so in an ideal season, she wouldn't be going there needing to race it. But given that she's only got 1 race under her belt, even if she comes in 30th place, it would mean she has more points going into the final than if she didn't race at all. So she'll be forced into making that decision.
Well, once again, he thought they could have opened the gate, but What a scene, what a scene. It's absolutely beautiful out there. The runners aren't going to get too much opportunity to look around. The leader surrounded by running cameramen who do an incredible job on this tour. Not so much opportunity for the mountain bikers today. We saw them down the bottom, but the runners have to be of very, very high quality just to stay with the leaders of the race.
Especially, you'll see different cameras. We're filming by drone now. This, I think, is Pep, one of the lead cameramen, who's got a very heavy camera for the recap that we'll be putting out later to give you the highlights of this race. They do run the camera runners with backpacks, and so they can then carry a big battery that then broadcasts back. It's extremely hard to run with on flat terrain, but when you're going downhill, you really need skill. Now, if you're wondering how much of an opportunity this is for Caroline to use her pace, it's about 2 kilometers, or it was before they changed the route, around this lake before they then headed up. Now that they've changed the course to the down, it might be that they've changed slightly how much they're running around here, but 2K is not a huge opportunity for them to push, and I'm quite surprised that Caroline isn't making more of this, because she really needs to, given how much better Naomi will be on the downhill.
Again, maybe that last 5K is in mind and saving her flat speed for the end of the race. Yeah, Naomi Lang, not scared of a puddle or two. Member of Carnethy Running Club, based in the east of Scotland. Some very, very high quality runners over the years, and of course races for Glasgow University as well.
Now, Caroline emerged on the scene this year. Her route into running is quite unusual. She used to be a pacemaker for tourists, Rasungi they're called, and a Swiss couple spotted her and tried to get her to switch to come to Europe. But she had a child, and then obviously looked after the mum, and it wasn't until really that she had an opportunity after that to come back to running that she realized that while she's a good road runner, actually her talent really is for climbing, and she is far more suited to trail. So she then came for a very first trail race at the Golden Trail in China, and won incredible performance. Now this is Samuel Kiprotich from Millimani Runners. He is a new face to the Golden Trail this year as well. He's a far more powerful runner than we typically see on the Golden Trail. I saw a video of him this morning doing a sprint finish. I don't think anyone on the Golden Trail, Elisine Philemon, could keep up with Samuel if it came down to a 100-meter sprint. The guy has serious speed. Now, we often wonder about the impact that Golden Trail has on and how it changes running, the communities. And I was speaking to Julian, the coach of Caroline, earlier today, and he said that Faith Kiplagat, who is currently in the top 5, she joined a running academy this year in January, and was a very talented, looking like she could be a very talented road runner. But actually, it wasn't until she saw the Golden Trail race in China, in the Jingshanling Trail Half Marathon, that she then decided that she actually wanted to be like Caroline. She wanted to be like Joy Chikajina, and decided then she was going to switch to mountain running. And immediately it had an impact on her success. And so we're already seeing the direct impact of races this season is having on the future of trail running, which is so exciting to see.
Kimitai and Lang, the leading two in the women's race, and for the first time Kimitai opening up just a couple of meters over Naomi Lang, who's played a blinder so far, and her strongest part of the course still to come, the downhill back down to the village.
I just hope we have a good camera runner to witness that, because there aren't many people that I know that would be able to live with her over that downhill, and I'm including some of the men athletes as well. She really is a phenomenal descender. Interestingly, if we look at, we've been talking about some of the impacts and the changes to trail in Kenya, but you mentioned COVID before. It seems to have had quite an impact on quite a lot of European runners and their switch to trail. And Naomi was the same. She said that the big step change in her running was COVID, where she spent a lot more time in hills and a lot less time on track. And after that, just didn't want to go back. When she was younger, she was more of a track athlete, and cross-country races, and represented Scotland in the nationals, the youth Commonwealth Games in the 3,000 meters. But COVID forced people to run alone and actually to get outside. And I think once you start running trail, it's very hard to go back to road and to track running, because it's just so much more exciting, and you get to see, I was going to say beautiful views like this. They are not as beautiful as they would be, but still incredible views to see.
Yeah, just waiting for an update on the men's. They're through 8.4. Kibet, Stat, Kipchich still the leading three. De Lorenzi down in 15th place at the moment. And we Kenya with 3 athletes in the top 4. In fact, they've got 6 athletes in the top 8 at the moment.
An absolute master show from Kenya, domination currently, and we can see them now starting to overtake the mid pack of our females. I believe that was Sarah Carter from the US who was overtaken there, and that could become a bit of a factor later in the race. Trying to overtake on the downhill is nigh on impossible when it's single track, and so depending on the course change means it's more likely that they're going to be hitting from the middle of the pack at the slower speeds of female runners, the front of our men's, which could make it very hard to overtake. So it's quite a good tactic to try and get some distance in now, and if you see someone in the distance who maybe would block you on the downhill, to just try and make sure you nip in ahead so you don't get stuck at their pace for the whole of the descent.
Well, I'm assuming that came into the race briefing, David, because the race officials certainly wouldn't have been. Firstly, I don't think they envisaged it happening with the old course, but now it looks very likely that that is going to be the case. So here goes Kibet.
And he's looking very fluid now, isn't he? He doesn't look tired at all on this. And while we say it's flat, it's still a little bit rolling. It's not like you're on road here. But doesn't seem to have any problem on the wet there. Very, very comfortable. And just look at the running styles of the cameraman in comparison. You can see how much harder he's having to work to run at that speed. And this is one of the beautiful things about watching races like this. Just seeing how fluid some of these runners look. Just effortless.
I think you've got to give the cameraman a break, because he's trying to watch the screen and he's also trying to watch his footing. The last thing he's thinking about is being as smooth as a Kenyan runner. But I absolutely take what you're saying, and you know, when you have a group of 3 Kenyans out front, their efficiency is what strikes you straight away.
Yeah, that efficiency is so vital to just make sure your muscles can maintain that speed for as long as possible. I've not seen Timothy run technical downhill before. He would have run in the final some relatively technical terrain, but it was towards the end of the race, and I think he was dropping off the pace anyway. So we don't know quite how good he'll be. The Fat Taylor Stacks run Broken Arrow. It's got some good scrambly climbs up and down. Should put him in a good position to be able to run quite well here.
Well, it looks as though Caroline Kimitai has opened up a little bit of a gap over Great Britain's Nemi Lang, and not sure what the gap is at the moment. Last time we saw going through 10.2k, they were locked head to head, and they had some 30 seconds over Marlin Osser, with Kiplagat, what, a further 20 seconds back. So a full minute separating the top 5.
I suspect on a downhill like we've got today, the difference between a good and a slow, you could take maybe 2 minutes difference over that, depending on how aggressive you are. One of the factors that people often don't consider about the difference in approach to downhill, because a lot of Kenyan runners train at E10 and train at altitude, when they go out on their training runs and when they do their races, they typically start by running downhill. And it's the second half in which they come uphill. So because you don't want to trash yourself in the first half of a race, it means that you don't get practice of really running as fast as you can downhill. Whereas because we start uphill in Europe, it means that the end of the race, when you're going flat out, is where you're running over the down technical terrain. So it just changes the focus of where they're practicing and putting their power, and that has an impact on getting used to running over terrain like this at fast speeds.
Well, this is nice, gentle terrain at the moment, the calm before the storm, and they all know what is coming once they round the corner, the descent back down to the village. On the women's side, we've spoken about Nemi Lang, who's excellent downhill runner. Good 40 seconds separating the top 3 men at the moment.
And that was Samuel Kiprotich on screen there in 3rd place. It's a shame actually that Kevin Kibet's not running today. He's done quite a few Golden Trails in the past. He's a very, very fast downhill runner. We saw that in the final 2 years ago in El Golfo dell'Ossola. And we're yet to really, I'm going to be texting the coaches of Team Run Together and Millimani runners to see who of these runners, of our male runners, do they think are most likely to be able to put some distance on the downhill. We do know that Caroline and Faith in 4th place. Both of them are new to trail running this year, really. And so we saw with Caroline in China on the steps, you really sensed that she was nervous about going downhill. I think she had a small fall while she was there. And when you're new to trail running, it takes some time to get used to having falls. And if we look at someone like Marlin Osser, in some races she can fall like 4, 5, 6 times, and she just bounces back up and carries on. And it takes experience and practice to just get used to falling and knowing that it's not the end of your race. You've just got to accept that that's a risk you have to take. Now, you can see the cows on screen there. Just a shout out to Sarah Alonso, who is top 3 in the overall series, who very randomly, sadly, was mauled by a cow and broke her ribs and hurt her leg. We hope she'll be back by the final, but a big shout out to her. And this is the thing about trail running. We often see that while it can be dangerous to run downhill, while it's technically difficult, actually it's often away from the trail, and it's often when they're not concentrating in a race that people tend to have more falls. And it's the small steps when you're not fully focused that are more likely to catch you out than when you're locked into a descent.
Yeah, one of the experts on the downhill is Damian Bogdan, and certainly worth listening to what he has to say to get some tips on how to do it. And I think
I love
the
downhills.
one thing you would say is you have to trust yourself.
Trust in me, and I don't push more than safety. The race in Austria, I think, has the best downhill in the circuit. There's a lot of steep uphills and crazy downhills. The terrain looks very technical, and I like this. Hi, I'm Damian Bogdan, I'm from Romania, and today is my first day in a new team, Kalias Fuga team. I don't feel a risk. In the downhills, you don't need to be scared. It's very crazy. You have to react very, very quickly, because in one moment you can fall down. The line between safety control and out of control, it's very, very close. Everybody will come down with the tired legs. I can catch some guys.
Well, he's got some catching to do, because at 10K, Bogdan was 7.5 minutes down on the race leaders. As we have a look at Taylor Stack, who's had an astonishing race so far, keeping the pressure on the race leader, Timothy Kibet.
Yeah, this is really a breakout performance by him. To be second in the Golden Trail, really a step up from his results before. I love the fact that Bogdan was saying you don't need to be, and we can see there, you know, a small slip, it happens all the time, and you just have to flow with it. You just have to bounce up. And we saw early on that Robert De Lorenzo was wearing gloves. Some of that is for warmth, but actually some of it is just to get control when you're going downhill and be able to bounce off the rocks and not cut your hands. You can see how tricky this is to run if you're not experienced over terrain like this. And particularly with those switchbacks, this is where local knowledge is so useful. Someone like Thomas Roach would have had the chance to come out to this course, and knowing when those turns are and whether you can just jump the corner or at what point to brake just allows you to save energy on every turn, on every corner. And we've seen with El Hassin in the final, when he's been racing Philemon and tucked behind, being forced, and we mentioned this before actually, I think that's Philaris Kisang is in fourth or fifth place lady, just slowing down the front of the pack there slightly.
Philaris, yeah, where was she last time we saw her? I think she was in 5th place, just behind Faith Kiplagat, and a minute or so off the race leader, Caroline Kumatai. So still only a minute between the top 5 women. That can certainly change. Marlon Osser going well. Remember, she was right up with Nemi Lang at the start of the climb, up towards the lake.
Yeah, Yeah, we've still only got our last split an hour in it, but you're seeing how tricky this is. You're having to take jumps, you're having to scramble, and I've just had confirmation through the next checkpoint. Nurmi Lang is now leading. We don't know where Caroline Kimitai is yet. We're just about to get an update on how much of a lead she's managed to put in. We suspected that would be the case. The question is now, can Nurmi build a big enough lead to have a buffer that Caroline can't catch her with her flat speed pace at the end? But she is absolutely flying right now. But I've got to say, so go ahead, Patrick.
I was going to say, David, just a reminder to the viewers that this is obviously the steeper part of the course. This race finishes with a 5K, relatively flat, 170 meters or so of climbing on that last 5K. So the question is, how much of a lead does Nurmi Lang need going into that final section?
And the fact we're filming Marlin Ossa in third place is probably because they couldn't keep up with Nurmi Lang. The cameraman would have been with her at the start, and she's just moving too well. But I've got to say, Marlin's looking very good as well. She wasn't too far behind.
Are you sure Ossa is in second and not in third or second? I've got Lang ahead of Ossa with Kiplagat in 3. Caroline Kimitai, I don't think has been through 12.8 yet, so I wonder whether she's taken a tumble.
Well, I mean, that would be sad news and big news if it has happened, but Nurmi Lang, you're right, has now got a minute lead over Marlin Ossa, and you can see how fast Marlin is running down this. Nurmi must be unleashing down these hills. But I've got to say, looking at Timothy Kibet here, he's running well. Like, we weren't sure what he'd be like over technical terrain. He doesn't look like he's struggling too much on the turns. And actually, one of the factors is when you come out of these turns to be able to carry on running quickly. And you can see now he's in full flow, and that's vital to not be losing seconds.
Shoot.
Having said that, we saw what Marlin was like through turns like that, and every turn like that will 3, 4, 5 seconds he'll be losing to people like Bogdan Damian, to Roberto De Lorenzi, and this is now the Brooks.
Taylor, is that Taylor Stack in second place still behind Timothy Kibet? I think that's the standing at 12.8. 102.44 on the clock for Kibet going through 12.8. Stack, Kiprotich, Seoli of Kenya in 4. We got Kiplimo in 5. And then Njiri down in 6th place. So the Kenyans are absolutely amassing at the front of the field. But Taylor Stack, the sole American in there, and he has put in an astonishing race so far. And although not the most fluent on the downhill, his speed is still good.
He's looking very strong. And this is Caroline Kimitai now, who we're behind. She had dropped down places. Doesn't look like she's injured, but you can see very cautious coming into these turns. And I don't know if she has got lost, actually. Looking at how she's running now, those corners, and even here, you can see she's not striding out. She's really holding back.
I think it looks as though she's done some damage to herself. I wonder whether she's taken a big fall. Doesn't look to be too comfortable on that left leg. But you're going to see the contrast in speed as some of the leading men start to come through. That's the way to do it. Take the shortcut. Throw caution to the wind. And Kimitai down in 5th place. When we last saw, her stride is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And it's... yeah, either an injury or she's been slightly psyched out by this technical descent here in Austria.
It could be a train, and then the contrast with Marlin Ossa. And as we say, she falls down and she just gets back up and carries on going. And that's the difference that you get from experience, is knowing that it's going to happen and just bouncing straight back up. The fact that Caroline was taking such small steps, maybe her trainers haven't got the grip she needs, and whenever she's striding out, she's just losing her footing. If you can't trust your grip, you have to try and take smaller steps so that you're putting less force into the stride. You're less likely to then slip out, but you've got to hope that's not the case.
Yeah, but David, you don't go to a race in the Tyrol, in the heart of the Alps, without at least a choice of 2 sets of shoes, maybe even 3, because you know, the contrast between a sunny day here and a wet one like we've had today is absolutely enormous.
You'd hope not, but we have seen it several times before. We're in WhatsApp groups of the athletes, and quite often you will see runners suddenly messaging round, asking in WhatsApp if anyone's got a spare pair of trainers. But if you've never been to trail like this before, it's very hard to understand how the wet can change a muddy and rocky trail, because...
Isn't that part of the team manager's job, to know these things?
This is true. He is a friend of mine, so I'll be careful what I'm saying there. And you could see there was a different path chosen, and this again is experience and confidence. The fact that Faith is sticking to the longer route, where I think it's Michael Scioli just flew through, knowing the course, having it, but there again, it seems it is very hard to actually see what the true route is here.
Yeah, Marlon Oster doing great work, but at the last count, she was some 50 seconds down on Naomi Lang, and I expect Naomi has put another 10-15 seconds into the Spaniard over the last 5 minutes or so. We haven't seen Naomi Lang for a while. Once she comes out the bottom, we certainly will do, and I think she might be the first down onto the final loop. And that's a very, very good move, because she won't have had any hindrance from behind, and it looks as though the leading male is coming up fast behind her at the moment, Timothy Capet, who is absolutely flying.
Look at both of their forms. They're like 2 stallions, absolutely flying. And we were wondering the impact of a downhill on runners that haven't necessarily had an experience of something that brutal before. It doesn't look like it's affected either of them. Their gait is just gorgeous.
Yeah, we should get another split time fairly shortly. We are looking at the leader of the men's, and we're looking at the leader of the women's at the same time. Naomi Lang for Great Britain in the white vest just behind. That's Marlon Oster on the little inset on the right of your screen at the moment. Second place in the women's race. And it's a long time since we've seen the Kenyans out of the top 2 in a race of this quality.
Looking back to the right as well, we still can't see Caroline or Philarice on our picture. It looks like even Marlon has built quite a lead now. The fact is, Naomi might be...
Also, what, some 2 minutes ahead of the previous leader, Caroline Kimotai, when we last saw, and I think she will have gained at least another 30 seconds on that last bit of downhill.
Yeah,
so
these are
some
huge leads now, and the second place male coming through Marlon Oster. So we get a sense of how far apart our men's field is, because we know Naomi was about a minute ahead. So Taylor Stack at least a minute behind now on the flat. We know Taylor's got a track background, but Timothy Capet is going to take some catching here. There's only 5 kilometers from the base to the finish. They've got 5 kilometers to try and catch our race leaders.
Yeah, we're used to seeing 2 or 3 seconds between the top 2. I think the margins could be a little bit bigger today. Capet and Stack at the last shout were 1 minute and 5 seconds apart. The good news for the American Stack is that Kiprotich was a further 40 seconds behind, and Scioli another 20 behind. So quite a margin between the leading 4 in the men's. We've got 2 minutes separating those leading 4. In the women's race, Naomi Lang, who we should get another split fairly shortly. She's 1:15 at 12.3, which was some way up the hill, and she had just about a minute's lead over Marlin Osser. Faith Kiplagat in third place. Caroline Kimitai, who was the pre-race favourite, really struggling on that technical downhill.
Yeah, the fact that Faith has pulled away from her teammate is, you know, it's showing how much Caroline has struggled. In fourth place, I saw that. I think that was Andrine Benjaminsen, who is a Norwegian orienteer. Didn't know she was going to be here today, and I don't think she'd done Golden Trail before. Clearly very good over technical terrain that orienteers tend to be. They're used to running in the wet. They're used to running over all sorts of underfoot. But with our race leader now, you can see he's fishing his back. Is he tucking away gloves? Is he going for nutrition? Clearly needing something.
Yeah, I think he's gone for gel, Timothy Kibet. We will get a readout on his progress. He's first through 14.9, just about 4K still to go. Taylor Stack has gone through 14.7, but was some way behind, so I think there's still going to be a good minute between first and second. And Kiprotich, last time we saw, was only 3.5 seconds down on Taylor Stack. So the American's coming under pressure again.
No, I think Timothy needs to get himself a good bum bag. He's having all sorts of trouble with his kit. But what a performance from him so far. He came to the final last year. He came fourth, and we were wondering how he was going to build on that. But before China, he actually went into that race with flu. We know that he's from a road running background, so it's incredibly fast. And he was someone who actually, they were looking at potentially going into road with the possibility of running like a 60-minute, 61-minute half marathon. So now to come here and to perform at this level, this is far earlier than I was expecting.
Taylor Stack is 53 seconds down now. Kiprotich is 55 seconds down on the race leader, so the margin between the top three is coming down. It might be the fact that Timothy Kibet is fiddling around with his jacket and trying to get gels out. He might have lost a few precious seconds on that occasion. And Seoli of Kenya has gone into the top four. He's 1:14.44, so he is a minute 45 off the leader. I don't think we're going to see him challenge for the podium, but still, second and third, certainly there's going to be a big fight for that position.
And there's Thomas Roach, looking great, looking a little bit like a washed-up rat in a lovely way. Still running very well for the UK. We've just had the race split come through, 14.9K. Nurmi Lang has a 1-minute lead over Marlin Osser, and Faith Kiplagat is yet to go through that mark. She was a minute down the 14.7K. In fact,
yeah,
Faith is now closing.
Yeah, what is it? It's over 2 minutes. Over 2 minutes between 1 and 3.
Wow, Nurmi Lang is unleashing now. I can't see anyone catching her at this stage. But Marlin Osser has a minute lead over Faith Kiplagat, and Andrine Benjaminsen is around 10 seconds behind Faith on her shoulder. So there's the battle of this race now is for third and fourth in our women's.
Yeah, good to see the Norwegians going well. We saw Nordskar last year with a victory in Zagama. They have produced some incredibly good runners over the years. So remember the splits in the women's in particular, a minute and a second between Lang and Osser. And then we've got 1 minute, oh, in fact, 2 minutes, 2 minutes 19 between Lang and Kiplagat, and only 4K now to close that gap down.
Yeah, Samuel now through to second place. There's an element of me that hopes that these two are still together, because I've heard so much and seen such, wow, He's now walking. Is there a chance he's bonked? We saw him desperately reaching back for a gel. He's taking it on board now. Is there a chance he's slightly overcooked himself?
Well, I guess everyone changed their tactics coming into this race, the shortened course, and they took out a big chunk of the climbing. And I think everyone will have just reconsidered the pace that they're going to hold. And is there a chance that Timothy Kibet has just pushed too hard? Remember, we were commenting on how smooth he was, and that smooth, fluent, fast action seems to have deserted him. He's in trouble.
He certainly seems to be, and we talked about race kit at the beginning, and the fact that not only, he really is in trouble now, he's looked behind, that is not a sign of strength. But we mentioned how Naomi Lang was going out in just a singlet in one layer, and how it was cold at the top, but the fact he's got 2 layers on and that jacket, that layer will be soaking and so heavy. And so you've got to race for mile 2. You wear your clothes for mile 2. And so potentially some inexperience there on clothes selection, given how fast this race was going to be.
Well, Stack and Kiprotich will get the news fairly rapidly, I would have thought, passed down through the team members that the race leader is in trouble, and a minute can disappear very, very quickly. They've still got just over 3 kilometers to race here.
Yeah, finish line in about 10 minutes or so. They are looking tired for a shorter race. You know, we've seen in earlier races this season faster paces at this stage, but this looks like, are we behind Christian Allen there? And now we're back with Faith, with Caroline Kimitai. Now down to 6th place.
Yeah, down in 6th, and she is over 5 minutes behind, so she's not going to challenge for the top 3. Naomi Lang certainly is going to be in there, and it's looking very, very good for the British athlete at the moment. And Glasgow University and the Carnegie Running Club fans watching this will be getting excited, because she still has a minute or so over Marlin Ossa. We're waiting for our latest update. Faith Kiplagat in 3rd. Was over 2 minutes behind last time we saw, okay. So provided Naomi Lang does not suffer, as we've seen from Timothy Kibet.
Did you see there how she's avoiding the puddles though? She's running very defensively now, Caroline Kimitai, whereas when we saw Marlin Ossa, Naomi Lang, Faith Kiplagat, they were just running straight through everything. It could be a state of mind, or it could be the trainer again. The good news at least is it didn't look like Caroline was running injured. It looked like she was flowing in the usual way. She's just very, very tired. And there we go, 2nd and 3rd place going through now in our men's, locked together.
Yeah, Taylor's had a change. Has he got a flesh-coloured t-shirt, or has he stripped off almost completely? I can't quite work it out.
He's getting the guns out. Sun's out, well, sun isn't out, but why not? This is his first proper exposure on the global scene, so why not get the guns out for display? But this is setting itself up to be an almighty battle for the finish. It looked at one point as if Samuel Kiprotich was going to pull away, but they've clearly settled into a rhythm. And it might be that they've decided to just try and work together subconsciously to reel in Timothy Kibet, because at the last checkpoint there was a minute between them. 20 seconds per kilometre seems achievable given how much slower Timothy Kibet was looking. Yeah. And is that him in the distance?
Well, I think we've just seen Marlin Ossa with Kibet. I think Stack, he was working with Kibet, being right on his little run. That gap of 7 or 8 meters doesn't look much, it doesn't sound much, but you try and push it at this sort of pace of running. It's very, very tough. It's not tough, but particularly in a shape here, really up the work rate.
Now, just for confirmation, we're currently looking at our second place athlete. This is Samuel Kiprotich in second place. Taylor Stack just off the back. Oh, in fact, it's not at all. Not even in our notes here. Richard, it doesn't seem his chip timer hasn't been working. So that looks like Cesare Mastri on the left from Italy. With Richard Atuya just ahead. We're now back with Caroline Kimitai. I think our cyclists have struggled to keep at the pace on this mud with our front runners. But there's Caroline Kimitai currently on our screen. She started off incredibly well, but now is down to 7th place, sadly. 7th place currently. And we have Richard Atuya on the left of our screen from Team Run Together. Looking very fluid. Clearly that downhill was taking its toll on Caroline here. She was running so fast at the top in the lead, and it can be incredibly punishing. But that's one of the challenges in racing, something like the Golden Trail. The DOMs you'll get after this race, knowing that you have to race something like Sierra Zanao next weekend, is incredibly hard.
Left.
It's all relative to previous effort, and so there will be some soreness in all of the runners the next day. But actually, if you look at someone like Manu Marias, who lives in the hills, who does tens of thousands of meters of elevation each month, you can see in their thighs the quad strength they have, and they'll come out of races like this far less blemished and able to race again. But part of it comes also down to whether you've done weights in the gym to help protect your muscles, and also just how fluid you are. We saw with some of our runners, the less you are putting through your legs, the more you're dancing down the trail and transferring your speed through rather than over the course rather than through your legs. It just means that you're getting far less micro tears and less DOMs that's going to come back to hurt for the following week.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because it's about having as little deceleration every time you put your foot down. You're not trying to slow yourself down. So the brave runners, in many ways, suffer less of it. But it's sort of a result of what they call the eccentric contraction, where the muscle's actually getting longer, but you're working it. Normally, when you contract a muscle, it gets shorter. But when you're sprinting down hills like this, the quads are getting longer as you put the effort in, and that rips the various elements apart.
I mean, you can tell Samuel is in the hunt here. I think he knows that Timothy Kibet is slowing down. He is looking magnificent here. Very, very fast at this stage of the race. With only 2K to go or so, looking how close they are. It's not going to be long until he starts to see him in the distance, and that will give him tremendous hope. Hearing the noise of the crowd and getting the tips of the people running by will start to really play on their minds as Timothy Kibet starts to hear the noise as Samuel passes behind him.
Yeah, so Kibet is up and running again. The last readout we got, going through 17.9, there was only 11 seconds between himself and Kiprotich. Taylor Stack had dropped back fairly dramatically. He's no longer in contention for the win. 1.8k to go, and amazingly, it's probably a third win for Timothy Kibet. He's back to that fluent running again. I guess the gels have taken effect.
You'd hope so, but I'm not so sure. I'm backing Samuel in this race, actually. He's looking so good here. Look how fluid he is, and they're saying he's in second place. There's no way that Timothy Kibet is 10 seconds ahead of him. So either our chip timings are wrong, or Timothy Kibet has been overtaken. Let's see if we can see the distances here. That, to me, doesn't look like there's a runner ahead of him. A serious contender.
It certainly would make sense. At 17.9, just 11 seconds apart, and Samuel Kiprotich is absolutely flying. When we saw how badly affected Timothy Kibet was. But we've had so many surprises on the tour this year.
And what's interesting is we haven't spoken about Patrick. There must be he must be injured, or he must have decided to not race through. We know in the mid-season he's had a few issues with form. Very sad to see, but he needed to score here. It was pretty much his last chance to get maximum points going to the final.
Yeah, certainly going to be interesting to see who races next week. The last chance to boost your position in the rankings prior to the finals in October.
And if you don't know,
Kiprotich Stack with a leading 3 going through our last split at 17.9.
And if you don't know, Sierras are now a race next week. It is one of the oldest trail races in Europe. The granddaddy as such, over 50 years old. And as races go, it's absolutely brutal. It starts with a 1,700-meter climb, and then you have to start running fast. And we saw last year an incredible battle between Kylian Jornet, who's won it over 10 times, and Philemon Kisang, where it came down to, I think, 4 seconds difference at the end. Philemon caught him on the down, it turned technical, and Kylian attacked back. We suspect they'll both be racing again next week. And exciting that someone like Timothy Kibet, Samuel Kiprotich, a young runner who we know is incredibly fast on the road, if he's performing well here, Sierras are now potentially suits him even better.
So Kibet still has the lead as far as this caption is concerned, and he's only got 500 meters to go. So if that is the case, all credit to him, because Samuel Kiprotich has been flying. I just feel that the last split times weren't right. You would have thought that Kiprotich would have closed that 11 seconds, no problem at all.
But can we see the runner behind? I think now it looks like there's 2 of them in sight. And
yeah. What's that? A margin of 7 seconds. Come down from 11. But if that's the case, Kiprotich is running out of time, but the gap is closing. There's a bridge and a half between them.
Oh, he's looking good though. He's looking good. You can see that distance slowly evaporate. The fact he could see it now, he'd have known how far back he was. And are they going to run out of time? But I had said before, Samuel Kiprotich is known for being an unbelievably fast finisher. And I think if he gets another 5 meters closer, he will win this, because 2 meters out, his clothing speed is unparalleled from what I've seen in this sport.
Well, Kvyat had a lead of over a minute at the start. He can see the finish now. We're down to single-figure 100 meters, but he will be aware that Kiprotich is coming up behind them. There's still a margin of some 30 meters, but Timothy Kvyat is safe. The pace, he said early on, pays off, and that's the first smile we have seen for a long, long time from Timothy Kvyat. He really struggled. He was 4th in China. Remember, he was 4th in the finals last year, and he gets top spot here in Austria. Absolutely fabulous run, and Samuel Kiprotich gave it everything. It's a 1-2 for Kenya. What a performance.
Unbelievable. I mean, we've been talking about the last few races, the impact that Run Together have had on this series, and Philemon and Patrick. But here now, Millimani runners, we've already seen in the women how dominant they can be with Joylene and with Caroline Kimitai. But now this is the first time we've had a Millimani runner win, and not just that, #1 and #2. Impressive stuff.
Here comes Taylor Stack, and he has fought off Seoli, who closed the gap to less than a second. But Taylor Stack also finding a second win on the back part of that last loop. Well done to him. He stops the Kenyan 1-2-3, and USA get 3rd place here in Austria. Taylor Stack, a big surprise, new name. He is a star in the making. Going to be fantastic to see what he can do. Let's hope he races in Sierra Zinal next week. So Kvyat takes the win. We got Kiprotich in 2, Stack in 3, Seoli and Kenya in 4. What a day, what a race. And the shortened course really having no effect on the excitement of the race whatsoever.
And when's the last time we had a completely new podium in the men's? I don't think it's ever happened before in the 5 years I've been doing Golden Trail. Incredible to see completely new talent coming through. And talking of new talent, Naomi Lang, only her 2nd season in Golden Trail. Last year in Poland, we were excited to see what she could do in similar conditions. And today, she's looked untouchable.
Yeah, every time one of the male athletes has come past, she's looked over her shoulder nervously just to check it's not one of her competitors. The stride just slightly shortened, but it's been an impeccable performance. The legs looking a little bit heavy. I think there'll be a few DOMs in her case when it comes to tomorrow or even the day after. But brilliant, brilliant. Looks to her left. She can see there is no one in sight. She was over a minute clear last time we saw. Marlon Osser hasn't been able to respond. Slightly mysterious start to the race, David, where the Kenyans sort of vanished from our screens for 10 minutes or so, lost the full 45 seconds to the likes of Lang and Osser, but I'm not sure she wouldn't have won anyway. I suspect the Kenyans went the wrong way. Brilliant downhill section once again from Naomi Lang. There was all sorts of talk about how she would be the quickest down the hill. That is the way it's turned out, and she's kept the pace going over the last 5K. She is on her way to victory, her first victory in the Global Trail.
And the fact we didn't have a cameraman that could keep up with her shows just quite how fast she was. Let's not forget as well, she's a relatively new runner to these distances. She comes from a feld background, she comes from a track background. While we're saying this is a shortened race, it's still not a short race for her, and she'll only get better and better.
There's the smile of someone who knows they are about to take the title in the Pitz Alpine Glacier trail race. Fantastic news for Naomi Lang, brilliant for Scotland as well. She's based in Glasgow University, runs for Carnegie, and you do not need 2,000-3,000 metre mountains to train on to be good at this sort of racing. Astonishing performance and really, really gutsy. She responded well when Caroline Kimitai came through to take the lead at the top of the climb, David.
She's just looked unfazed throughout. We saw that she was happy to lead when she was running with Malin Osser early on, but when she lost that lead, it didn't seem to impact her pace. She's always been in control of her race, and that's meant that she could be strong all the way to this finish line. And what a result for Malin Osser as well. Second place in her life for Golden Trail. Great performance.
She was third in Kobe, the first race of the season. She got another third in Zagama, which is her favourite race at home, of course. Today, she goes one better. Both Lang and Osser delighted with their positions. It's no mean feat to beat the Kenyans at this sort of a race. They have worked wonders today. Really strong performances. And I think that will set them up well for next week. Sierra Zinal, last race before the final, last chance to pick up maximum points. And I tell you what, Osser isn't far off the lead in the Tour now with a second and 2/3.
Yeah, absolutely. She really knew she had to perform well in this race. We're going to do a bit of calculation to see what that means for her overall rankings, but she was sat in 9th place in our series, having only done 2 races. That 188 points is going to really shoot her up the rankings. Under my calculations, she's now moved up to 3rd place in our rankings. Madalena Faria leading with 5.76, Sara Alonso 5.66, and only 2 points behind in 3rd place now.
Is this Benjaminson of Norway, who could prevent the Kenyans from getting on the podium at all? She saw the opposition when she came over the bridge. She had a good long look to her left. She has not got far to go. She'll break to the right soon to go under the banners, complete her run for the day.
And Richard Atian and Cesare Maestri both on the right there, but what a performance as well. We're talking about new talent coming through. It's a great opportunity for orienteers to come and show how good they are running technical terrain on races like this. And a 3rd place, she isn't someone we've even been discussing all day because we didn't know she was this good.
Yeah, we've seen plenty of orienteers in the past. One of the factors is that orienteering, you're always having your rhythm broken because you've either got to stop to look at the map, or you've got to stop and turn around and go the other way because you've gone the wrong way. So they don't mind having their rhythm broken, which is what the downhill section of this course certainly does, and the uphill section as well. So that completes the podium. Lang of Great Britain in 1st position, Malin Osser of Spain 2, and Adrian Benjaminson of Norway in 3rd. We've got just over 10 finishes in the men's. Roberto De Lorenzi was down in 26th on the climb, long way off the pace. He's got himself up into 11. Other big names, Thomas Roach of Great Britain, 8th place.
And that is Maria Olcina coming through for Spain, 4th place, another very good result. And we believe Faith Kiplagat will be coming through shortly in 5th place, only 15 seconds down. I mean, it just shows you how much the elements had an impact on the race today. We saw how the speed of some of the runners at the first half was just demolished by that downhill. The conditions, the wet, the cold, and wow, what a performance by Naomi Lang. You wouldn't bet against someone from Scotland winning today, and she was incredible.
Yeah, what a performance by Timothy Kibet.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are with today's winner, Timothy Kibet. You made an impression here in Pitztown. You almost led from end to end. So you were 4th last year at the final. You were 4th in China, but this day, today, did you start thinking you could win?
Okay, first I would like to introduce my team, Milimani team runners, and my management, Daudin and Sandra Hassan. my company Salomon, and all my teammates. I say thank you because first it would make me to win the race today. You know, without teammates, I want to make it. But of course, Milimani team runners were attacking it in heart and mind, and to let it win for today's race. Yeah. So I say first, I thank God for this winning. I was much prepared for some months, like 3 months, with my team. So we come here when we are fearless, and we thank God for everything, every preparation, every workout, and every winning for today. I take it to Milimani team runners and be happy as a team, yeah. And all over the world, and I want to say that thank you for the organizers for Pitz Alpine for organizing this massive race that to take today. The course let me, the course is fair for me and make me win the race.
Well, what a race it was. I think another 500 meters he may well have been caught by Gtws, but that wasn't the case. He scraped up, having had a very, very bad run of things just coming off the hill and the start of the last 5-kilometer loop. In terms of the men's race, it was tight in the end, David, but the women's, we had what, over 2.5 minutes separating the top 3.
And you wouldn't necessarily have predicted that at the top either. It just shows the difference in ability on that downhill. And it's kind of what you want to see, completely different contrasting races to the men's and the women's. And this is why we love Golden Trail. It's hard to predict the winner.
So Kibet and Lang, the 2 winners here in the Pitz Alpine Glacier race, and they will be on a high. Haven't seen the entry sheet for next week. Those who desperately need points to qualify and put themselves in a good position for the final in October, I'm sure will make the trip to Switzerland for that 8th race of the season. Marlon Osser on the right of your picture. De Lorenzi had a good recovery. A slow start, but he raced well.
He always does. He's a very experienced runner, and he's not quite had the form he's had of last season, but he always knows how to pace himself, and he's also a very skillful runner, so it's no surprises he was catching people up in the second half of that race. But we saw on there three Basque runners all together. Albert's one of the young male runners alongside Marlon Osser, and but you could see I loved the enthusiasm on the finish line, everyone hugging from different nationalities coming together. But did you catch a glimpse of Caroline? She really looked tired, really looked like this race was just slightly too long for her today.
Yeah, well, was it too long, or did she just get the pacing wrong in the early stages? You mentioned the excess clothing, and the Kenyans all had cags on at the start of the race. That increases your rate of perspiration, so dehydration's much more of an issue. I wonder whether that was a factor.
Yeah, and overheating, the extra weight of that base layer as well, it starts to rub. It's very, very different conditions, and they all start to play on your mind. If you're not feeling good and you start to feel slightly defeated, these things become incredibly annoying. But it's very hard to get right coming to a race where you're not expecting it to be quite as wet or quite as aggressive. But our top 5 men on screen here, 3 of them from Milimani runners, an incredible performance by their team, and an American, not the American we expected to see in the top 5. It just shows the depth of talent there is from those 2 continents. This is always the challenge, though. Quite often they won't have had a champagne bottle to open in their practice, and so let's see how well this goes.
Yeah, Taylor Stack's done it before. He was straight in there. He's excelled himself today. That was a really, really brave race. I think many will have thought he went off too hard. Road to Great Britain, top 10. We haven't mentioned Sarah Wilhoit of Great Britain, who has also got herself a top 10 finish in the women's race, coming in just behind Maciusak of Poland, and not far off Kimitai. Here is
all right,
the
after the men's come the women,
Lang.
and
I hope here she
what
is.
a show you gave us today, Naomi Lang, winner of this 7th stage of the Golden Trail World Series, and in style. The fight was on right from the get-go. You must have been feeling quite amazing. So can you walk us through that race, how it went, when you pulled away from Caroline, and then coming into Pitz Valley with such a lead?
Yeah, so I mean, at the start it went off like so fast, so I was like, don't go with that. And then kind of when I got technical on the first loop, I was like with Malin, and the two of us were kind of working together to come back, and that was so good. I feel like having like teammate and roommate like right there. Yeah, it was like so much fun. And then on the climb, like, yeah, I think it was a case of just like working like super hard. It was only one big climb, it got shortened. So yeah, it was kind of like almost all out to the top, and then yeah, see how it went around the lake. And then yeah, Faith got or Caroline got away a wee bit, but yeah, on the descent I was like, just go for it, try and get a big gap at the bottom, and then yeah, see what happens.
And what happened is that you won your first Golden Trail Series stage. What is next for the rest of the season?
Well, I mean, Sierre-Zinal next week, which might be the complete opposite to this. I think it's supposed to be hot and probably not muddy at all. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm super chuffed to get like a win on the Golden Trail Series, and yeah, nice to have a bit of a comeback after Noli, which wasn't my best.
Well, she talked us through it just as it happened. Disappointed not to hear what happened to the Kenyans on the first 5K, but from what Nemi was saying, David, it sounded as if she just ran away from them.
Yeah, a difference of intent there, and possibly a good thing given how they fared in the second half of the race. As she said, she's got next week in mind already. She wouldn't choose to race Sierre-Zinal in a typical season, but you need 3 scores to take to the final, and she's announced that she's a contender in this series now. Let's hope she can recover well, ready for that race next Saturday.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll get interviews with more of the runners. I think Samuel Kiprotich is going to be next. He was only 4 seconds off the win in 2nd place.
Here we go. Now we're 2nd place in the men's race. Samuel Kiprotich. Samuel, we saw you a lot in the race, and you came back at the end extremely strong. Do you think if you had started a little earlier, you could have caught up to Timothy?
The first one, thank God. But I'm just strong. But you are the 2nd place. You are the 2nd in World Trail Rallies in China, position 6. Thank you, God, and I am so good. I am so and thank you, God, Lemani team, and your Salomon team. You forget me, and yeah, you are just good. Next time it will be number 1. Yeah. Yeah, nice. That's good. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, from what we saw today, that's a distinct possibility. Kiptich could well win at some stage. He's had a good run today. He's had his media training, and great to see the Kenyans in such good spirits after that run. So Kibet, Kiptich and Taylor Stack, the top three in the men's race. In the women's, we know all about Nemi Lang, who took the win. She was under pressure for a long time from the Spaniard Marlene Ossa, a good friend of hers, and as Nemi said, her roommate here in Austria. And Ossa certainly looked very, very good on that opening stretch, and she maintained a decent pace throughout to claim second place. The margin in the end was only 29 seconds. So Ossa was, a good 30 seconds quicker than Lang over that last 5K. Here she is.
All right, second place today, Marinusa. It did feel like a win. You had a race that felt like it was to your full potential. And so we saw that behind the cameras. Can you tell us how it went down for you?
Yeah, I'm so stoked. It was so fun. I enjoyed it so much. I'm super happy with my performance. I went off a bit faster than usual. I was leading already at the beginning. It was feeling a bit unreal. But honestly, I think I was pretty constant, all over the race. And in the last bit, I could even get closer to the finish, to the first one. I was super close to winning, but yeah, it feels like a win, and I'm so happy.
And so again, is Austrian next weekend or not? We're asking this question to everyone because we don't know, and you're allowed to say you don't know.
I really know, and I'm not gonna go to Austrian next weekend. If I'm being so consistent all over the years, it's because I'm choosing smartly the races, and I feel like one step at a time doing the race that is in the moment, and I'm gonna focus on the next ones, but I will just follow Austrian from home.
Sounds good, Marinus.
So that's interesting, David. She would have to finish in the top two to improve her position in the rankings. So do you think that's a good decision from the Spaniard?
Absolutely the right decision. She's not known for her raw pace. She's not known for her climbing. And she, time and time again, makes the right decision. But when we saw her coming into her sport, she's from the Basque region, where Zegama is the biggest race in their world. And for 2 years, she could have raced Zegama and chose not to. She stuck to the shorter distances because she's just so aware of the impact of over-racing has. And we need to see more role models like Marlene actually deciding when to race and when not to race is equally important.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at some of the highlights from the women's race. The pace was pretty stiff from the offset. It wasn't long before the three Kenyans were out front doing the damage. And at one stage, they had a good 20-second lead over the rest of the field, but Marlene Ossa kept going. It was Nemi Lang who was the first into the big climb. And then she just kept the pace going all the way up through the climb, even when the Kenyans came past her.
Yeah, and at this stage they were coming up to the end of the big climb, and at this point we thought, I mean, nice little bit of obstacle racing there. We thought Caroline Kimatai might try and push the pace and try and get a bit of a lead, but was really struggling with this downhill, and that gave Naomi and Marlene Ossa the opportunity to start to break free, and that's where the race really changed. By the time they came to the base, this 5K to finish, Naomi had a sizable lead, and while Marlene Ossa was clawing her in, it was just a complete race by Naomi today. From start to finish, just looked like she had the bit in her teeth, and she knows how to pace well. She's fast, and with that downhill technical speed, she was unstoppable.
Yeah, how do you think Zegama, Sierra Zinal, sorry, suits Nemi Lang relative to this course?
She's going to find it really hard. It's considerably longer, about 15K longer than today's race, but the fact it's 2/3 of it is climbing with only around 1/3 of it descending, and so for someone like her, it's not technical enough. It's too long, it's too fast. She'll be going there just for points, but it's great that she is in some ways, because we get to get a sense of how she's maturing as an athlete. But if we look down at this list, we mentioned Sarah Carter coming through, top 10, clearly battled back well. Maria Olcina, first time in the top 10. Andrine Benjaminson, again, first time in the top 10. And it goes to show how much the course can change with a bit of wet and a little bit more technical terrain.
Yeah, and of course the absence of the 3 top runners in the Tour. Floria has, already notched up 5.76, sitting this one out. Sara Alonso, who won the first race of the season, and then of course Joyce Njiru, who won Broken Arrow, and of course was the Tour winner last year. So there were big names missing, but take nothing away from Naomi Lang. I think she would have given any one of those 3 a run for their money.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the only person who it's so hard to say in the wet, but it changes the race fundamentally. And in the men's, the story was completely different to what we were expecting as well. And we saw even at the start, Taylor Stack, someone we weren't expecting to be in our top 10, leading out very well. Unlike the women's, they had grouped together a little bit more, and we can see the teammates of Millimani runners and Brooks in the blue and green, they're working together. But as the climb kicked in, that's when it started to change. And we saw Timothy Kibet starting to pull away at the front. By the top, Timothy Kibet had a good lead, but on the downhills was starting to slow down slightly. And second place, Taylor Stack and Samuel Kiprotich were neck and neck, then looking like the more likely to close in. The fact it came down to the last 400 meters shows how close. Look at that closing speed behind, but the joy on Timothy Kibet to win his first Golden Trail. And the first for Millimani runners. Second place, Samuel Kiprotich, his first podium, and Taylor Stack from America in third. A clean sweep of new podium finishes. Great to see in the Golden Trail.
So there's confirmation of the top 10 in the men's. Another shout out, Thomas Roach. Brilliant, brilliant performance from him. He'll be delighted with that. Covering the ground well. Kibet hanging on by his fingernails. Another 500 meters, and I'm pretty sure Kiprotich would have been in there. But yet again, David, the Golden Trail series produces a nail biter. Time and time again, it's just single figure digits in seconds that separate the top athletes. There are the standings. Elizoe still out front with his 3 wins this year. Kipngeno didn't feature today, 5.88. He's only 12 points adrift. We'll see whether he races in Sierra Zinal. I think it looks as though it's going to be a 3-way fight when we come to the finals in Italy. In the women's, Madalena Floria, despite being absent, still tops their table, 10 points clear of Sara Alonso, and Marlene Osser up into third with her second place today, and she's only some 36 points off the top of the rankings, with Joyce Njiru with just 1 win so far this season, down in fourth.
We're going to be back next Saturday with Sierra Zinal. The big news is Joylene Cipangino, who won on her debut last year, has been training with this race specifically in mind. She wants to demolish that course record. It's going to be incredible to see.